So go ahead and take your circle and take some time to place it right in the middle of your page. And then when you're happy with where it is, you can either do this in pencil if you're worried about having to do it a second time, or you can go ahead and use your marker right away, which is what I'm going to do. So we're going to start by focusing on the earth, and we'll worry about the background later. And what I love about this project is it kind of uses some of the techniques of foreground and background. So let's start by making a line that looks like a curved letter S, and we're going to make it go across our earth, and this is going to be, it makes me think of the prairies. So right about in the middle, or just a little lower, starting with a big U shape down and then a bump up. Okay, so you have a curved line here, and that is going to be our prairies. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some waves down here. I'm going to make my waves really big, and I'm going to do them by again making an S shape up, and then a C shape down, and then an S shape up, and then a C shape down. I say an S because I see an S here. And that's just what helps me remember when I'm drawing waves. Okay, and then you can go ahead and make some smaller ones at the bottom. 1, 2. Okay, in this prairie, we're going to make some fun swirls, and you can make them any direction you like. You can make them bigger or smaller. There we go. And you'll notice I'm not using pencil first today. The reason for that is all of these shapes are pretty easy to make, which is why I like this poster so much. It turns out really nice, but it's made with easy shapes. So we're just going for it. We're keeping a growth mindset. My teacher used to say there's no mistake in art. So when you commit to a pen that won't erase, that's what you're telling yourself. So in the water now, let's make some fish. You can make as many or as few as you want, but keep in mind the more you make, the more you have to color. So to make a fish, we're just going to make a circle or an oval shape and leave a little space and add a triangle for a tail. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump over here, and this is an easy line. We're going to start a little higher up than halfway, and we're just going to bring another piece of our land down like that. Okay, and then we're just going to make some partner lines all the way down. And then for our next step, we're going to add some trees. And you know, sometimes we make really realistic drawings. This is a very cartoony drawing. So all we're going to do is we're going to make some little, they look like clouds to me, just some little puff balls with very simple trunks that go down. And we're going to make our trees go all the way up this line and up that hill we just made. Okay, we're going to make another curved line for a hill in the background. So we're moving from foreground to background. And you might need to do some frog jumping over the trees. And what I mean when I say frog jump is if you're creating a line and you run into a tree, you're going to pretend that line keeps going by just frog jumping over and continuing on. So for this shape, we made a S that started low and went higher. For this one, we're going to start high and go lower, frog jump, and there we go. We're going to switch what kind of trees we're making. We're going to make some pine trees in the back, and they look like Christmas trees. So a simple way to do that is make a triangle that goes down, zig, zag, zig, zag, connect. And then I'm going to make 2 more hilly shapes. 1, 2, and I'm going to continue making some more pine trees up on the hill. You can play around with what size they are. There's not really any rules here. Smaller things go in the background, and things that are closer to you show up as bigger in your picture. Okay, here's my favorite part. We're going to draw some mountains. So I'm going to start with the mountain here by going up. Frog jump if it happens to run into one of your trees. A second mountain here. And a third mountain here. And when I saw this art project online, it made me think of the three sisters. 1, 2, 3 big mountains. You can even add another mountain in the back if you have extra room. I'm going to stop there. But I'm going to draw some snow caps by making squiggle lines across. And I'm going to save this spot up here for sunset, which I'm going to create with my watercolors. So now we're going to move on to the background, and it's like space. I love it. There's a big sunshine, the moon, some stars, and a planet. So let's do that. I'm going to move my book down. In this top right-hand corner, make a big curved line for the sun. Okay, and then we're going to make some fiery rays coming off of it by making some curved lines in and out. I just again think of those S shapes. And then down here, we're going to make a big letter C for the moon. And if it comes off your page, I just think frog jump over, continue on. With a smaller C shape inside. Okay, so we're going to keep making this balanced by making a couple stars here. And stars can be tricky. If you know another way to make stars, you can make them the way you like to make them. I usually just make a triangle shape, slightly diagonal lines here, and then I continue on with that same pattern. And I kind of like when they aren't perfect. It just makes me think of cartoon stars. Okay, now moving up to make the planet. So for this, it could be a little tricky. Just take your time, do a thinking step first. We're going to come down and make a curve like this. And then we're going to make our planet shape inside, frog jump, circle. And to close it off, we're going to make a partner line inside and complete any lines that need to be connected. So this part I love. If you'd rather keep making stars or do some other design, you can. But there's just some little swirls all around the outside. Maybe you need to go get your materials ready. I have my water. Again, I have my brushes, a big one and a small one, but any brush will do, and some paint. And you can kind of look for the bright colors and the earthy tones today. So one example of a mistake that sometimes kids make, and it's not a mistake with their art, it's just it makes it more difficult for them, is they color how they would color in a coloring book. And it's not necessarily the same thing you would do with watercolor. So with watercolor, you want to pick a spot that you're going to paint, and then you want to let it dry for a couple minutes. Watercolor dries really, really fast. So let it dry for a few minutes and come to another part of your page and work on another part of your page before you jump back over and say do the sky. Because what kids sometimes do is they'll paint the mountain and then they'll paint the sky, and they'll notice they have a big puddle or the two colors are running into each other. So you can avoid that by painting one part, jumping around, painting another part, painting the sky, or the sun, and just making sure your colors aren't touching before they're dry. Okay. Another common mistake too is, like I said, if you used a Crayola marker, which is water-based, it might bleed a little bit. So if you check your marker and you're like, I'm not sure if that's going to be permanent, if it's going to bleed a little bit, maybe you want to use a different medium today, and that's okay too. What else? Sometimes you want to have that effect. So I'm just going to show you my original here, and you guys can start painting whenever. You don't have to wait for me. But if you look up here, I actually wanted these colors to mix together for a sunset, so I did purposefully do the sunset all together, which is a cool effect. I also did that for my sun. It looks yellow, but I used a combination of yellow, orange, and red to really make it pop off the page. Okay, so I'm going to get started painting, and you can too. I think I'll start with my smaller details today, like the trees. The only way you can kind of go wrong is if you spend too much time in one spot, because keep in mind it is just a piece of paper, and sometimes when kids are trying to fix something, they'll actually make it a little worse by spending too much time on the same spot. If you run into a puddle or just leave it alone, let it dry, and you can come back to it later. And I'm going to show you a little trick when I'm doing my mountains. I'm going to actually make them 3 different colors of purple so that they look like they're different distances apart. So I'm going to use the same purple that I just used, this nice violet color, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a squirt of white to my palette. Purple's kind of a bossy color too, which means it has a lot of pigment in it. So I'm going to come down here. Maybe you have white on your tray. Or I think that was Ainsley that said she was using, or maybe Kinley was using pencil crayons. You can actually take your white pencil crayon and do a layer of white and a layer of purple, and you'll get a new color. For this mountain, I'm going to add just a little black to my palette, making a darker purple, deeper purple. Ooh, I love that. Look at that plum. And that's all from the same watercolor puck on my tray. Might actually come back to that middle mountain and make it a little darker too, but I'll do that later. Okay, I'm going to grab my big brush and maybe a bright green for that layer of the earth. I'm going to start with the red, and red is the bossiest color. Miss Lemieux dyed her hair red in high school, and oh my gosh, I think it's still not out yet. So just grabbing a little red on my brush with a little bit of water. The more water, the more soft it will look. The less water, the more bright it will look. So you want somewhere in between. I'm just going to add my sun peeking behind the mountains. So that's our Earth Day project. I hope you had fun making it with me today, and I would love if your parents could send me a picture of your creation so that I can put it on our Google Classroom stream. Have an awesome weekend, everybody, and I'll see you next week.